here.
Yay!
27 minutes late, but we're here.
Not for lack of trying.
Welcome to week 8, Crazy Writer Chicks live events. I take full blame for this late start today because I literally signed in early with Becca and said, I can get used to this thing on Tuesdays where we don't have any technical issues. It's so nice. Anyway, your life in the balance. We're here to talk about all the fun stuff that we juggle and we call it life. So my name is Nikki Rome. I've got Becca White and Winter Navi here today. As you guys probably know if you've been following along, we are the Crazy Writer Chicks. And this is what we do on Tuesdays. We sit here and solve the world problems. So your life in the balance. It was one of the topics that came up when we were kind of shuffling around ideas of what to do and what to talk about. And it kind of seemed appropriate for right now. I think we could all agree with that. So where should we start?
There's so much.
That's why
That's the problem,
I
right?
to you.
Talking about balancing stuff because there's so much to even think about.
There is. Like, where do you even begin? The day job, the side gig, the kids, family, self-care, that thing they talk about.
Yeah,
there's a lot of books about that.
Yeah, there's some week that self-care is like hiding in my bathroom and crying in a 5-minute shower, but I still count it as self-care because that's 5 minutes to myself. Or driving to the grocery store and going there and by myself is like a vacation. I've seen more and more people, especially in the author community, trying to step away and pull away a bit from the social media piece of it, that it's getting in the way with writing or feeling obligated to be there and obligated to have your face out there too. So I kind of feel like this is an appropriate topic for right now.
I have to say that I just started a new job. So for me, finding that balance is really weird because I've just shifted my whole life from being on the truck to like being in a solid place to where I have more ability to move around and do things, but it doesn't feel like I have a system just yet. I've created a morning routine though. So now I'm getting up in the morning and I'm exercising and doing Bible study and then listening to a podcast about your mind. And then I feel like I've done a lot. And I feel like the day should be done. And so then going to work and then have a couple meetings throughout the day. But I find that balance because I came in for one thing, which is, sales, and I'm also doing copywriting. And for that, I'm trying to find the right balance. How much time do I spend on the copy and how much time do I spend on the onboarding for the sales? And I feel like since I'm going to get paid faster on the copy, I just spend all my time on that. But so yeah, finding that right balance so I don't get behind in one thing, that I haven't figured out yet. But normally if I'm working on one thing, then I still feel an itch about the other thing. So I'm not fully focused on the other thing, which is a problem. So I really need to find and create a schedule so that I'm not in two places at once.
Something that helps me when it comes to that kind of thing is physical space. Like if I'm working on school stuff in the schoolroom and I want to switch to writing, it helps me to go somewhere else. It doesn't have to be a certain place, like I always write in one place, but somewhere else from where I was.
Yeah.
That makes sense. If I need to make phone calls, go somewhere else to make those calls and then go back to that. I mean, it's not like 100%, but it definitely helps my brain to disengage from one task. But I'm like you, I have a hard time. I'm one of those people that would have been probably really good in a career where I just had a career, like I had a job and didn't ever get married or like Like I could really focus on it, because that's the way my brain works, to just really be into one thing.
Hmm.
And like switching back and forth, it is really hard. I have a hard time with it. That's
I
why I
think
love
now
like
that you
camp.
say that, I do move spaces and I don't even realize that I do it. And I even move spaces depending on the task. Like if I'm writing, I'm typically sitting in bed. If I'm like doing marketing, like promo stuff, sending newsletters, my blog posts, that sort of stuff, I'm sitting at my dining room table always. And then for like my day job, I have, a whole separate desk set up and every that. But depending even on my day job, like depending even what the meeting is, like if it's a really big meeting, then I'm on camera all day. So I'm like changing my view because I'm like, do I really want these people seeing my bedroom in the background, or do I want to, so I do move around throughout the day too, and I never even realized that I do it so much. But I guess it's helping me. I'll tell you, when it came to day job and prioritizing things, kind of like what you're talking about, Winter, the only way I could do that was block scheduling. I would block schedule, like before lunch, this is the only thing I'm working on. After lunch, this is what I'm working on. And that's how I split my day, because I've got a few different responsibilities in my job.
Hmm.
The only problem is when, leadership is like, listen, your priority really should be here these whatever days. And then I got to break my routine, which makes it even more difficult, which is similar to, having a life change like you're going through right now. I mean, anytime we have a life change, it's a break of routine that we've had before. So it takes a while to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of situation, I have to just push other things aside and focus on that for a while and not try to balance.
Just to get
If
it
it's a
done, get
new pet, or if it's a new
established.
obligation, or even a new appointment, like I just have to let myself have the grace of saying, you know what, we started 2 new appointments now. It's going to take me a couple weeks to adjust to having, you could say, oh, it's only 2 hours a week. It is, but it's a change. And it's not just a change for me, it's a change for my child, which is an amplification for sure. So
Yeah, I'm
anything like
equal
that.
parts dreading and counting down the days to summer vacation because I have a big change for my children's life that is going to free up massive amounts of time for me come the summer. But there's that change that's like, you're going to a new location and you're going to be here for these hours, and your therapies are going to be here while you're there, and we're not doing this anymore, we're not doing that anymore. And by the time we get used to it, the summer will be over and it'll be fall and we'll be back to school again. But it's important to me because I needed the extra time, because I cannot balance right now. I am constantly in this state of feeling overwhelmed, and it's not fun. It's not fun. Like, I sat on the couch today for maybe 30 minutes and watched a movie with my family. I watched 30 minutes of the movie because I had to get up and go cook dinner. But I turned to my husband at one point. I was like, thanks for doing this movie. This is really nice. And then I'm sitting there and I'm going, I got to put the chicken in. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to eat dinner in time for the kids to take showers and get ready to go to bed. And then I'm sitting there, my boss freaking text messages me. And she's like, can you help me with one more thing before I leave for vacation tomorrow? And I'm like, sure. It was nice for the 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But like, how do you balance the pulling? Everybody pulling in different directions, always needing you to do something. Because I can't say no. I know I can't say no. I'm terrible at it. I need to practice it.
That's
Becca,
where
you're good at saying
boundaries come in.
Yes.
Becca's good at boundaries.
She's very good at boundaries.
I'm getting good at them. I used to be terrible. And now I go to a support group for it. So that has helped a lot. That's helped a lot. It's like our accountability thing in Crazy Writer Chicks. Like, if you say, I'm going to work on this week, and then you're coming back to say, yeah, I was going to do this. And then, so-and-so asked me for something and this other person asked. And half the time it's not even someone asking. It's like some notice that I get an email that's like to the whole church, like, we're looking for volunteers for such and such. And it's so hard. Now I just say no for everything, because it's like, nope, COVID, like everything is no. No, no, no. But before, I'd be like, well, let me see. Well,
That is true.
we don't have anything. Kelsey Gibbs says, Nikki, get a tattoo on your forehead that says no.
You should.
I
had someone
Or a
once who told me to
sticker,
write it
then
on
you
my
can just take it
hand
off
so
if
that
you
every
don't
time
want it.
somebody asked me a question, I could look at my hand and be like, the answer is no.
Yeah.
It is
I used to do
the
a thing where
biggest
like you have to
downfall.
ask your spouse before you make plans, if you have a spouse or someone, whoever it is, an accountability partner or whatever. Oh, like you're not allowed to say yes to anything for say, X number of months to like break out of the cycle. Like you're not allowed to say yes to anything. So you have to
Can I
ask
use
first.
So do
my
you
dog
actually
as an
have to
excuse?
ask
I
your
have to check with my
spouse?
dog
Yeah,
because I
because
don't
my
have a
spouse is
Yes.
always like, I don't care,
Like,
whatever you want to do. It'd be like talking to the dogs.
yeah, but it's even just taking that break to step back and like you're saying, well, I can't. You can even say, I'm not allowed to say yes to anything right now. Like, you can explain, I can't say yes right now. Let me see.
I could see
Or
that working
let
because
me
what
check with,
happens is I always say yes or I'll volunteer to do something, and then within an hour I'm immediately regretting it. And I'm like, why did I open my mouth? Like, if
You
I had
know,
just thought this through, then maybe I wouldn't have agreed.
I went to an event once and there was a girl who said, she never says no and she never says yes. She always says, let me check my schedule. It gives you time to assess if you really want to do it or not.
mhm.
And then you can get back to them and be like, yeah, no, I have other plans.
And you never owe anyone an explanation. That's something that was always so hard for me too.
True.
That
To be
is
like,
hard for
oh, well,
me.
I can't, because of this or that, and trying to come up with an excuse or having a legitimate excuse, but it doesn't matter. Like, you don't owe someone a reason why you can or can't do something. And you don't have to say, I
That would be
can't either.
extremely freeing.
It
Because I'll find
is.
myself coming up with the craziest reason. Like, it could be nothing. It could be I just don't want to go, but I'll be like, well, I got to do this and this, and tell them my life story for the day for no reason because they don't care. They just want to
Right.
know
Mhm.
that
No,
I'm not coming.
Just
I
say I'm
don't.
not
yeah.
available.
I'm not available.
Even if it's for you to sit on the couch and look at nothing. You're not available because I'm
Yeah.
having couch sit down time with
You can
just
put
me.
it on your calendar. And that's what they say, like, put it on your calendar. Like, and then, yeah, like you said, like, put on your calendar family time or whatever. And then you can say, oh, sorry, I'm already booked.
I could
And
try it.
and you
I'd be
are.
willing to try it.
I've gotten a little better with the boundaries. I think it might have started with Becca. And yeah. And so like even tonight, like I was working on the copy and I knew I had tonight, yet somehow forgot. And someone was like, hey, can you do something with me? And my response normally is always, yes, I can help you. But then I was like, I really need to get my work done. So what I did instead was I facilitated for this person to meet with someone else who was available so I could still get my stuff done. So I still got my hands dirty, but at the same time, I didn't take up all of my time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got the message that I was supposed to be here, and I was like, oh, yeah. So good thing I didn't take that call. So I am getting better with saying no, I'm not available, prioritizing myself. Um, but what I haven't been prioritizing is my personal writing. And I don't know how I'm going to do that because now that I'm writing for work and using my creative stuff for work, I don't know.
Hard.
I'm going to have to separate the writing times. I can't do them back to back. I know that much because that's just too much in there,
Mm-hmm.
right? So my writing has been on the back burner for a week or two. I mean, I've still been doing some brainstorming and stuff, but I'm trying to get solid at work before I start integrating my personal writing again.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
I'll tell you, when COVID happened last year, so I work as a corporate trainer for those of you who are listening and don't know. So I traveled for a living and taught classes standing in front of a room of like 20 people every day. It's kind of crazy to think that we even used to stand inside a room with 20 people at once. But we did, and it wasn't that long ago. And when we shifted to virtual training, I did a lot of rewriting of our curriculum because I had done some projects with it before. And It was very difficult, I'm not going to lie, to be like writing curriculum and writing for work all day long and then having to flip the switch to write my own stuff because you just didn't want to. It was like you end up feeling more burned out than usual.
Mm-hmm.
And I found the only time that I was doing any of my personal writing while I was working on that was the weekends. And
Mm.
sometimes like really late at night if the bug would but like Saturdays were like my day. And then it kind of leveled back out again and I didn't feel because I wasn't doing as much of it during my day job. But I don't know. I mean, there's so many writers that balance like editing full time or writing, like ghost writing full time or copywriting full time and pushing out their own novels at the same time. And I'm like, I can barely push out a blog post for myself once a week. Like, I don't know how you're all doing
Yeah.
it.
But they their brain probably works differently. Like,
It's
depending on
possible.
how you are and how much creative energy you have just in general and what are they doing in their spare time, it may be that they figured out what really fills them up creatively, and so they're just consuming that, whatever that is, in crazy amounts in their off hours so that they have the energy. Like, there's so many things to consider in why someone can do that. Because I
It's true.
know, like,
People do
my
function very
child
differently.
often, yeah, like, emotional energy to me is creative energy. And if my emotional energy is sucked, I often cannot write because I can't think of
Mhm.
anything to write. And I spend most of my day emotionally involved sometimes with my kid. And so it can just be like hard to think. But sometimes it feels like a retreat from that too. So it just depends, I guess, on the day and how much is there. But definitely like watching movies and reading and things that fill up. But that's part of balancing too, is if you're putting out all the time for work or for your family or for your community, church, like, well, whatever it is that you're involved in, you have to take back. Because if you're not giving out of a full cup, you will run dry and get burned out.
Yes.
And you can do it for a while, and depending on who you are, you might be able to do it for a long time, but then the crash is even worse. So it's so
Sorry.
important.
No, that's 100% true, I think. And I don't think it matters how your brain works. There has to be a little, you have to fill the tank every once in a while.
Right, right. But what that looks
You,
like would be different for different people,
Yeah.
yes.
like depending on what it is. And you may think, looking at one person, oh, they're just so creative all the time. And maybe they are just by nature have more ideas. Like some people just are more like that. I'm not one of them, unfortunately. But to be able to keep going, yeah, they're filling up somehow, or they
You
burn out
know
and they don't
what?
write for 2 years.
As I was training for this position, there was a lesson. It was kind of like what you were saying, Becca, about moving positions for different tasks. But they, on top of that, they added having a talisman for whatever task you were doing. So, like, if you, not this simple, but like if you're cooking, you'll put on your apron and you're in cooking mode, right? And
Yeah.
then if you're sitting down to write, you have something like a certain scarf that you wear every time you write, or maybe a different pair of glasses you put on, and it should get you in that mindset because you're actually getting into that character. It's like your
Hmm.
avatar kind of a thing. And then if you're going to go garden, you put on your gardening gloves or a specific set of gardening gloves or something. And I've heard that that really helps. Like even like one guy, he puts on glasses, but I don't think they actually have a prescription in them. It's
Hmm.
just his get in the mode, and maybe that helps too. Just creating a for different tasks that aren't easy to get into, having a talisman to help you get into that mode, whether it's a
Hmm.
jacket or a scarf or glasses or a hair tie, something. Or a certain pen you pick up just for when you're writing your own stuff. I don't know. Could help.
So let's say we've got the schedule, the talisman, the spot, like all the things. And then the phone rings or life happens or some wrench gets thrown in. Like that, I think is the biggest struggle when I, for me anyway, I have so many things to get done in a day. And I really only can schedule myself like a week at a time because there's so much crap. I don't even know what's coming up the next week. But then something happens and you have to make that change. That's where I struggle the most because I am so like, and I don't get it. Maybe it's changing as as I'm getting older. Like I never had a problem with changing plans or changing routine or anything. But now I'm like, I'm
Your
gonna
kids are
Throws you
rubbing
off.
off on you.
My husband's here. My kids are probably rubbing off on me. My husband's sitting here, which means he's probably going to listen to this. But so today he leaves the doctor's appointment and he calls me and he's like, "Hey, I got to go in for this outpatient thing. I scheduled it for next Thursday. It's going to be between 6 and 8 a.m." And I was just like, "What? You did what? You have to do what?" I can't do that on Thursday at between 6 and 8 a.m. Like, who's going to drop kids off? And I have a meeting at 8 o'clock, and then I got another meeting at 9:30. And like, I mean, like, what exactly? How are we going to? And I'm losing my mind instead of just being like, "I'm so sorry. Like, what did they say? I can be there. I'll take you there." Like the supportive wife thing. I was internally and externally flipping out and barely even. I was like one word answering him on the phone. Like I was pissed. I'm like, wait, no, they can't tell you that you have to do this next Thursday. Like, you're crazy. How am I supposed to make that work?
Yeah.
And I hung up the phone.
That might happen to me sometimes.
And I, rearranged our entire life for next Thursday to make it work, which was not as complicated as I thought it was going to be. But it was like the world was coming down around me and I was being the worst spouse in the world. And he's just like, "I love you. I'll talk to you later. I'm on my way home. I love you." Then he had the audacity.
You need a moment.
He's like, can you make me a sandwich? I'm gonna swing by and pick it up before I pick up the kids. I was like, "You want me to make you a sandwich?" It was not my finest moment. But I'm like, I was like on the verge of breakdown because of a schedule change for next Thursday. Not even like 2 days from now, next Thursday.
No, things like that make me cry sometimes. For real.
I
if I'm
wanted
stressed.
to. But like, how
we'll
am
just
I in
have a
that bad of
crying day.
headspace? Or like, I guess it's a bad headspace, but like, how did I get to this point where that makes me lose my mind?
Yeah.
Like, that is insane. It's not a good look on me.
No, it's
I don't
because your
know.
stress level is already up here somewhere, so it just doesn't take very much. It doesn't take much to go over the side. And simplifying. I've simplified so much in my life just to cope. There's so many things I don't do, but even still, every once in a while I had to. Well, recently I've been thinking, okay, I just have to cut something back now because I have
New things.
the
that
kid.
need
Well,
your
like I
attention.
thought Trooper was going to go to school here, and I was going to be
I
getting
know.
into writing, and like all these things. I was going to have more time. I'm going to practice Spanish in my little computer thing, and maybe I'll learn how to play the guitar, and like just all these things that I've not done that I've always had. Long had an interest in doing. But no, I spend most of my time helping him do stuff, or calming him down so that he can get back to doing stuff. Today wasn't like that. Like today was a nice day. I wrote and I did things, right? Like I swept the floor. I didn't cry when I cooked dinner. It was a nice day because he was pretty balanced and things were good. But yesterday, yesterday I was like, I didn't text Nikki. I should have. That's the kind of that's what I usually would do. Nikki, where do you want to go? How's Cancun?
Let's go run. I'm always down for running away. Or at least dreaming of it. It's fun to pretend like we're going to actually do it someday. But when those days happen, and for me, it's the morning. Like I've made it 2 mornings without screaming at anybody in the house.
Oh, congrats.
So proud of myself. But when that happens, which will happen tomorrow now because we never make it a full week without like timeouts and screaming and crying. And I'm not talking about the kids. Like I'm screaming and crying. I need the timeout. But the reality is I know it's coming, so I'm already anxious over it. And so when it happens, I'm like I'm right there on the edge. I'm like, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And I'm looking for it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But when I lose it early in the day, it is so hard to pull it together for anything else I have to do that day. I am like emotionally exhausted, frustrated with everything. The slightest little thing my boss says aggravates me. Anybody who's got anything to say about anything, I'm like, what? What do you care? What? It doesn't matter. None of it matters anymore, And then the kids will come home from school, and I'm still aggravated with them because I haven't worked out my own frustrations, or my day's gotten thrown off, and I'm short with everyone. And it's just hard, and I don't know if it's the whole balancing everything or if it's just me needing a deep breath every while. Might be a little bit of both.
Have you attempted to start meditating?
Girl, I don't
Has
have time
anybody
for
done
that. I mean, she's
Yeah.
phenomenal,
Yeah.
but like when do I find the time?
Yeah, but like 10 minutes of calming down can save a whole day.
Oh,
We do
probably.
physical.
So right.
I hope this isn't too much information. A few months ago, I stopped taking birth control. And since then, my physical energy has been like way, way, way higher. Like it was suppressing me for the last how many years? Like 18. I've been on it a long time. And I was really irritable, like extremely. And I wasn't being nasty, I don't think. But I was just so antsy. And I'm still having a hard time sleeping sometimes because I'm just like, I'm awake and I'm ready. So I've gotten out like weights and stuff. But anyway, it really helps me calm, like lifting weights. And it doesn't even have to take more time because you can do it while you're doing something else. Like while I'm helping the kid with something or whatever, I can sit there and I can they're just 5-pound weights. I'm not and more advanced than that. And I can just do it, right? But if I'm spending like half an hour a day, even if they're only 5-pound weights, like pretty soon it's going to be visible. I think, it's inevitable. But anyway, but the kids too, and in the morning, like doing stuff like that 5 deep breaths. Like Trooper, when he's really wound up, he doesn't want to do it. But if I'm like, we can do like, well, let's do a hug deep breathing. And if you're just doing 5, it's amazing. Just 5 breaths. And then we can and then yesterday we did that. We did lots of things to calm down. And it did help during that time. I mean, he was, I don't know what the deal was like in the underscoring. I don't know what the underlying issue was. That was causing it. Maybe just didn't sleep well enough or whatever. Because I was in a great mood until I had to deal with that. But just keeping it going. So like even if you can't take an hour nap or break or whatever, just doing that, like some deep breathing, pushing the wall, the things that we teach our kids to do. It only takes. I mean,
really
you can push the wall for.
Don't do what I do.
Yeah, 10 seconds. Make sure you're not wearing socks if you have a slippery floor. You could fall on your face. But just pushing as hard as you can. And maybe even, like just pushing, and then relaxing. It's like, oh, I feel better now.
Yeah.
And
or you can punch a pillow. I had a friend do that today. There was frustration.
I had a friend do that today.
Punch a pillow. And then hold it tight enough so it doesn't smack you in your own face. Like
yeah, any kind of deep or like crunches or things that like really work those muscles. Really, it relieves a lot of stress quickly. I mean, meditating is great, and I try to do that somewhat regularly too. Because it can give you, more clarity. But in a quick pinch when there's kids and there's stuff going on and whatever, in our floor, and Nikki, you might try this because you have a slippery floor, right? Trooper will be in his socks, and I almost never I either wear shoes, like something on my feet or bare feet. We'll hold each other's hands like this, and I'll have him go rigid, and I will push him like on his socks, like he's skiing. and I'll push him around the floor. And it's almost impossible to not laugh.
Yeah.
Impossible to, I might have said that wrong, to keep a straight face, because when you start doing it and you're like, oh, go, no, don't buckle, and you're like going around and the kid's keeping as rigid as possible and you're keeping rigid, so you're both getting like that deep pressure from the weight of it, although your kids are a lot lighter than mine, it might not work quite as well.
Yeah, they
but
fling
it's
across
still,
the house. I'd have to be careful with that, but
but it's fun. Like,
here,
so
let
you
me
just
push
did
you.
something
The
that's
next thing
good
I
for
know,
you.
they're sliding across the wood floor into
You
the other
probably would
room.
want to practice it when you're not upset, so that they know what you're doing and they don't think that you're trying to kill them. Mom is shoving me
Oh, my
across the
I could just hear that one.
But that really
We're
has
still
been
hearing
helping
it
a lot.
because Jose
Sorry.
accidentally clipped Jeremiah's ear while he was cutting his hair. He was not supposed to do that. It's like, dude, it was an accident. You're not even bleeding anymore. It's over. He's like, oh, he just read me the riot act. That's not how it works. You were not supposed to do that. They never let things go. It's hilarious. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, for me, there's a lot of balance with kids because we just became a family in November. So we for those watching who don't know, we just adopted our kids in November. So they've only really been with us since August. So that was a huge shift. So on top of shifting from working and traveling full time and then being home and having to adjust to that, to now being home with 2 other humans in the house and adjusting to that. And it seems like we're constantly revolving door of new animals around here. So it's every time there's that, it's like additional chores are added. I mean, I love that part of it. But when I step back and look at it, it used to be like my fun for me, fulfilling bit of my day. And now sometimes it just feels like another thing I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably need to find something
Yeah.
else that's going to be my refilling of the meter thing.
Yeah. But that's when you know when there's too much. There's too much.
Yeah.
If the things that used to bring you joy are now exhausting, then something's got to go. Like, I would seriously just start looking. I
What, you
actually
can cut out?
used to do this as a part-time job, like help people. Just be like, okay, well, what are we getting rid of? And mostly it was physical things, but not necessarily physical things. Like, just making that hard choice. Sometimes it's easier if there's someone that you're talking to about it, to just be like, okay, this is something that I like or that's valuable, but it doesn't make the cut. And just getting rid of it temporarily or permanently, depending on what it is. And the stress relief of just saying like, oh, I don't have to do that anymore. But you can't fill it up with something else. You can't, that's the problem, is
That's
then like,
the point.
oh, now I have an extra hour in the morning. So I could, no, you can't. Where was that
It's your
forehead
extra
tattoo again?
hour.
Which is what I always do.
Yeah.
And that's where that accountability partner comes in, whether it's your spouse or someone else. Like, wait, I decide that I'm going to take on this, whatever it is, this wonderful thing that so many would benefit me and so many people.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is going to have to be practicing no. I mean, I value, like, if we have one day where we don't have to leave the house at all, like a weekend day where I'm not working, we don't have to leave the house at all. It is, I cannot tell you how refreshing it is to me. Yet, I literally, the only weekend we had free this month was the 15th, and it just got filled with a trip to Miami. And so, like, for the next 4 weekends straight, Saturday and Sunday, every single weekend, I have something going on now. And I'm like, there goes my month. There goes my month. And so that's my biggest problem. And I'm not even talking like seeing friends, because y'all, I don't talk to people anymore. COVID, perfect excuse for an introvert. I don't have to go. I do, COVID. I watched this TikTok the other day, and the guy was like, listen, y'all, just because I got both my shots and I'm vaccinated and we'll be outside and wearing masks, it doesn't mean I want to see you. That's kind of how I feel right now. We went to our first friend gathering last weekend, and it was nice to see some people, but I felt extremely uncomfortable because I'm just not used to being social with people I'm not related to. And so that has been weighing on me a lot. It takes a lot of energy to go out and talk to people. I know that sounds crazy. It even takes a lot of
No, it
energy just for me
doesn't.
to do this. Like, I have to like rev
Mhm.
myself up for it. And I always have fun doing it, but I'm like, all week long, I'm like, oh God, Tuesday night, we got to get on. We got to think of things to talk about. Not like we ever have a lack of things to talk about, but I make these big deals about it because every other moment of the day is full.
Right. It's probably because you're already tired and drained.
Yeah, but like now I'm on
And
here,
this
I'm
is
not.
our
I'm like, this
therapy
is great.
session, and
All
you're like,
night.
oh, here we go.
I know, y'all are pretty intense. I mean, we were talking about losing boobs last week and everything, so.
Oh, can I tell you a story that is really, really random? So we all talked about last
Tangent.
week how tangent, because that's what I do. But we talked about last week how some of us don't have a choice to not wear bras. And and then the next morning I got dressed and then I was derobing at the end of the night and I looked down and I was like, why do I have two bras on?
You did not.
I did. I put a regular bra on and then I put a sports bra over it. And I don't know why or how, but the whole day. And I was like, why did I
I
do
love that you
that?
didn't notice until you were getting dressed at night. Like, it wasn't like all day
Undressed.
long you felt extremely uncomfortable or something was off. It was, why do I still have a
Oh man.
bra on when I took one off?
I was like, well,
That's hilarious.
That is
yeah, I was
hilarious.
out of it.
Yeah.
That whole conversation apparently blew my mind because,
Apparently. I don't
Yeah.
know.
yeah.
But see, we haven't even talked about like health and stuff because that
Mhm.
makes a huge difference. Like if your energy
It
level
does.
is low, then you're going to be thinking, oh, well, I should be able to do this. And why is this making me so tired? And maybe it's not that. Maybe it's because of eating or exercise or sleep or daylight or, whatever, all these different things that can affect
Mhm.
energy levels, vitamin levels. However, I have noticed that a lot of people like to try to fix that even if there's not a problem instead of decluttering their schedule. Like, if you're doing too much, then you're doing too much. Changing your eating habits is not going to change that.
No.
So
True.
you can't just say, oh, well, it's just this or it's just that. Like, you really have to evaluate and see what's working for you and what's not. And again, and not comparing my thing, because I don't have, again, like I'm a low social energy person. I am more introverted than extroverted. I love hanging out with people. I love working with people, but a lot of that, like you said, Nikki, is tiring for me. And if I plan a lot of that, it does. It gets to be like, oh man, even people that I really like, if I'm tired or whatever, it's like, oh boy, we're going to SeaWorld. I love these people, but it's like a whole day. When am I going to get done the other stuff that I needed to do? But that just lets me know that I need to prioritize differently. I
Mm-hmm.
think if that's a problem.
At the same time, though, I think you're also thinking, when am I going to have time for me so that I can process and get the
Hmm.
energy back? Because when you're an introvert, like two and a half of us are, um,
I never think of you
um,
as an introvert.
I'm halfway there. So,
She's like an
um,
introverted extrovert.
I really am, people. I'm very complex. So, um, you need that time. Alone time is actually what it re-energizes you.
Hmm.
And so when you're always with the kids or with the husbands or with the people and doing things, you don't have that time to get recharge,
Yeah.
which is tough.
But it's
Hmm.
interesting because it's almost like we condition the people around us to expect certain things from us too. Like my son the other day, it was a couple weeks ago, we had a Sunday where we weren't doing anything and it was like 3 o'clock and he's like, Mom, we haven't gone anywhere today. Like, where are we going? I'm like, dude, we're not going anywhere. Like, this is the day. We're done. We're not going anywhere today. We're home. And at the same time, I have people around me who will call or text or invite. And since my answer is always yes, I end up the go-to person for a lot of things. And then I volunteer to do things that I probably shouldn't be volunteering to do either. And so that's what I think that's where that fear kind of comes in with saying no and just disregarding mental health, physical health, and everything that comes along with it. It's just like, well, I can't say no. Like, if I don't do it, who's going to do it?
Well, somebody will step up if you don't.
Yeah, or it won't get done. And probably it won't be the end of anyone's world. Probably. I mean, there are some things that really are that dire, but most of the things that we fill up our time with.
Nothing I do is that important.
Yeah.
Maybe driving my husband to
I'm going to make a sign
is.
from my wall right there over the window over there, and it's going to say, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Because
and
all the things that I get upset about, most, like 98% of them don't actually matter. Come on, are you going to get this done? Like, I'm getting all stressed out about something. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're 5 minutes late in the end. I mean, you know, it could be a problem eventually, but like, there's so many things that I get stressed over. I could just cut them out and the world would not be a worse place. You know, wouldn't matter.
And if you're always agreeing, then you're not giving someone else an opportunity to step in because they're always going to expect you. So if you say no sometimes, then they'll start looking elsewhere, and then you can at least do a rotation. You know?
Yeah, but I'm also a very judgmental person, and I never think that anyone can do it right. This is a therapy session.
That is a problem.
This is a therapy session, y'all.
I told you.
I'm breaking into all the things tonight.
Which is why I think with your meditation self, you can use the bathroom time for your meditation when you're washing your hands. Just wash your hands for a couple minutes longer and meditate.
I'm washing the stress right out. Yeah.
And look in the mirror and give yourself affirmations. I don't have to yell today. I can communicate without yelling. Or I can breathe and walk away.
Yeah. This is going to be fun.
Without yelling.
This is going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
I'm amazing and powerful. And the best mom ever.
That's too far of a stretch. I can get through today without yelling. But it's going to be fun. That's pushing it, ladies.
Okay.
It helps.
It's not that fun. These things are not that fun.
We'll do some rewiring somewhere down the line.
If you look at it that way, though, it can start to be fun. But you're talking about perfect, like wanting to succeed. That's a controlling thing too. You really need to come to a support group with me, because that's another thing we talk about all the time is like the need to control things and make them be a certain way. Which again, when it doesn't really matter, you know, it really doesn't matter. My first experience with this, I was newlywed. Jonathan, we were doing a vacation Bible school, which some people don't even know what that is, but that was a huge thing. And he was making a pyramid that was like maybe 10 feet tall or something. And that was his thing that I thought he could do mathematically. But then when I saw it, it was considerably higher, like proportionately. Do you know what I'm saying? Like instead of it being a triangle, it was still a triangle. I mean, there were 3 sides and all of that, but it was much taller, you know, like it was tall, but then it was only this wide. And I was like, but that's not what pyramids look like. How are we going to, maybe if we just trim it, I'm starting to think already, like, how can we fix it? And the lady who was in charge, she's like, Becca, let me tell you something. Any job that you don't have to do is a good job.
She's got a good point.
It's fine. It's fine. And it was hard for me because I am very much a recovering perfectionist. You know, like it still gets me now and then. It does, for sure.
Those meetings are still virtual, right? You should just send me the link. Thursdays, 9, totally Thursdays, 8.
At 8, yeah.
There's probably some stuff I need to work on. This is so far beyond talking about balancing things.
But it's not.
All
I
of it
don't
is
think
balance. Though.
it's
Yeah.
about balancing. Like, we could just talk about balancing out your schedule, making sure you have an hour for this or that. But I think a lot of this it goes so much deeper than that. Like, the reason
Well,
we
because I
have
think a lot
trouble
of us
with it.
know that. Like, I mean, like we know what we need to do. It's getting over ourselves and actually doing it. Like we know writing a
Yeah.
schedule or putting a morning routine together is what we need to do. I know that saying no is what I need to do and letting go of some things is what I need to do, but am I going to do it? I have to get over some of that internal stuff to put all the things in place. Otherwise, I could put
Mhm.
the things in place cuz y'all know I have I've put all the schedules together and all the pretty things. And I've gone from very beautiful colored graphic schedules to like, let me write on a piece of paper with a pencil right now kind of schedule. But if I
Mhm.
can't separate myself from all the other stuff, I'm not going to follow it. I'm not going to follow it. And then by the end of the week, it's already
Right.
thrown out the door, which is why like our accountability thing on Monday is so important to me. Because I'm telling you right now, the first time I miss it and don't make it, you're gonna have to call me out because I promise you I'll stop posting on Mondays. Like as soon as I miss it once, I'm like, oh, that wasn't a big deal. I don't need to worry about that. Yeah, sure, all right. 5,000 words next week. I'm not gonna post about it because then people know when I don't do it.
Uh-huh.
The worst. The worst. And then, but like there's a lot of writers in our group. That is a big part of it, or creators, where you're like, oh, I'm gonna push out this many products, or I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna do that. But if we're not telling somebody else we're doing it, we're not going to get it done either.
Mhm. Yeah, who was this I can't remember who was saying. I've heard it a few times lately. Like, self-control is not the problem. You do not need to keep focusing on being more controlled, better scheduled, whatever. You need to acknowledge who you are and what you can actually do and what is healthy for you and work with that because that's realistic. Like
Mm-hmm.
saying, this is my schedule for whatever it is, right? You said like creative product. All right. I mean, I'm the kind of person, I haven't done this in a long time, but I'm the kind of person who would really enjoy having like a house cleaning schedule where this day I do this and this day I do this and like things like that. And then also for every part of life, when I was in this missionary program, like we had these, I actually used the schedule. Other people would work around the schedule or kind of fill things in just so that they could say they did it. But I was like, this is life. Like, this is awesome, right? Because it was me. And aside from people canceling things, which happens all the time, I was able to do it. But that is not my life now. My life is heavily involved in other people's moods and what they can handle and where they are that day and all these things, and I had to let go of that and say, you know what? If the toilet is dirty, it doesn't actually matter. Like, it doesn't matter as long as the seat is clean enough to sit on, like
It
close
works.
the door and clean it later if it stinks, or ask someone else to clean it if they have time, or the kid can take out the trash, whatever it is. And but letting go of things and not being so rigid and having yeah, I guess having some goals that I'm going to stick with,
Mm-hmm.
but not outlining everything and not needing to be in control of everything and being okay with things not being perfect. Say like, what's the one thing or two things or three things depending on your life that you like I'm going to do today, and then just kind of let everything else more or less go because you don't know
Yeah.
also, yeah, like what's going to happen. And if it's a
No, you
crying
don't
day, it's a
really know
crying day.
if it's a crying day. It's a crying day. I like that. I might make a sign that says that. We could just cry today. It's okay.
That would
Um,
be a great sign.
Well, you know what? I actually told someone recently that it is okay to feel how you feel when you feel it.
Hmm.
It's okay to go through those motions because they are They are real and they are you. And it doesn't matter if you feel like it's okay whether you should feel that way or not, because they're honest and you don't
Yeah.
have to necessarily share them. You can go to the bathroom, you can go to your bedroom, you can just think about it. But as long as you acknowledge them, that's what's healthy. Because if you don't acknowledge them and you try to bury them, they're going to eventually come back up and attack. And it could be you or the wrong person or even the right person in the wrong way. So acknowledge them. Take the time
Yep.
to say, I feel this way, whether it's in journaling, whether it's in your head, whether it's in sign language, whatever you need to do, acknowledge it.
Yep. Name it. This is how I feel about it.
Write it on paper and burn it, whatever you need to do.
We are not encouraging pyro or any type of fire starting for fun, in full disclosure.
Got you. Yeah, my bad. Like,
write it down and crumble it up and throw it in the garbage.
Yeah, there's that. You could cut it up into pieces if you're really freaked out that somebody's going to go in after it. Or put it at the bottom and then pour some leftover food on top of it.
Yeah.
How did we get this far into disposing a piece of paper?
I don't journal because I'm always afraid the wrong people are going to find it. It like freaks me out.
Yeah.
I used to edit myself in my journals just because of that. And then I was like, this is stupid. Why am I bothering?
You're not being honest with yourself.
I go back and
There are
read
things
this
I don't
moment
write.
in my life. I'm going to know exactly what was going on. And that's not what I wrote down.
So I actually have thought about all these things.
Yeah. I mean, I do. I write a journal and I keep it mostly honest, but there are things that I don't actually write down just because, like you said, you never know what might come out later. But I know what it meant. You know what I mean? Like, I know I might kind of write in, not code, but kind of, you know, like, and so, or, you know, whatever. But that can help. That can help with balance,
just go
too.
get one of those ones with the little locks on them. They have those. Or just get yourself a nice little safe for your room.
Use the computer. We do use a safe.
For the journal. A safe for the journal.
Is there anything else we have to say about this? I know we started late, but it's getting late.
We did, but it's getting late. I can't stop yawning.
We've been on here for 49 minutes. I think that's pretty solid if you guys are good. Do we know what we're talking about next week?
Yeah. So next week is how we answer those questions. Those questions being all those uncomfortable questions that people ask you that are really none of their business. Like, oh, you really do that for a living? When are you going to have kids? How many years have you been dating? Why aren't you getting married yet? Don't you want to, move up in the company? All those questions.
The ones that I'm like, I don't know.
I've had a lot of those questions come up in my life.
I've had a lot of those questions.
Me too. And I answer them.
I do too, and I don't know why.
It's been a long time since anyone's asked me any of those now. I guess maybe because of COVID.
Yeah, because we don't talk to people as much anymore.
Yeah, it might just be that.
I'm curious, though, for people who are watching or will watch this later and you do journal, how do you handle the thought that someone else could reach it, or how do you hide it so that you're sure that no one will ever see it that shouldn't? So
you can put it like in a password protected file.
It's just not the same typing it for me.
When I journal, I used to write. It was part of my morning pages routine because I would handwrite it.
Yeah, I can't. And I'm handwrite.
It's 3 pages, and it'd be first thing in the morning. Just following the morning pages thing.
Yeah,
that was when I would journal.
Because I'm the type of person who doesn't know what they're thinking until they get it out. So I'll say things I don't necessarily agree with until I figure out what it is. And then I'm like, oh, that's what I think. But the wrong person might take it all the wrong way. So
It's a good question. Comment below. Or if I ever edit these things and get them on our YouTube page, comment over there.
comment there.
I'll get
And
to
don't
it.
forget to
It's on the list.
subscribe.
Officially those people. Like,
I don't know
comment,
the
and
rest of this.
subscribe.
There it is. Like, comment, and subscribe. Ching. And you can even click the bell. Thanks, guys.
Is there a bell?
There's a bell for whenever we post.
Notifications
That's the one.
to get
On
notifications.
Facebook,
Yeah.
there's a bell?
YouTube it.
On YouTube.
Oh. I need to get caught up. Sorry, girls.
I've subscribed
it's on
to
the
like
list. I
80
need to
things
schedule some
because
time
my
to do
son
it.
subscribes to everything.
Oh.
And we're on the same
No
account.
problem.
So we can see what he's doing. And there's just like a million. I'm telling you. I'm always going through and deleting them all, and then they just come back. Balance.
All right, girls. I think I'm going to go
Sleep
get
is
ice
part of
cream and go to
balance.
bed. Yeah.
Thanks, ladies. It was good talking to you. Happy
Yeah.
therapy session. And I think we
Therapy
worked
is
through some
good.
things.
Therapy is
And we
very
learned
good.
that sometimes I wear 2 bras. So, you know.
True.
Without
True.
even knowing it. So, what does
That
that
was a
say
good bit of
about me?
information for today. I'm a terrible wife. Winter wears 2 bras, and Becca's not on birth control anymore. You've learned all sorts of things about us tonight. So I hope you liked it
You're
as much as
welcome.
we did.
We're going to be famous someday, ladies. Just for this
Yeah.
weirdness.
Oh,
As long
dear.
as we all know we can never try to become president of the United States or anything important like that.
I'm good. So
Hopefully
good.
none of our kids ever try, because you know they're going to dig
Oh
this up.
God, that would be terrible. Oops.
Good luck.
Sorry, guys. Y'all have a good night.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Bye.